Akasa sent me their Venom A20 dual radiator, as they call it, basically 240mm CPU cooler. Dual radiator is a little bit weird, but they do have some nice features like reinforced tubing and the very, very bright yellow fans. Inside the box you get two of those fans, as well as obviously the CPU cooler and all the mounting hardware you'll need. The block itself comes with the Intel mount, or Intel plate sort of clipped onto the side. You can just remove that by lifting it from where the pipes are, and obviously the pipes coming out from the right hand side with the actual 3-pin fan header for the pump coming out of the top. Obviously do remember to take this sticker off, but if you do want to replace the mounting hardware for AMD, this is how you do it. Just slide it up from the basically the tubing upwards and then slide the AMD one on. Now the radiator itself, mine did come with quite a few sort of dents in the fins, but obviously not too much of an issue. There's no leakage or anything, and overall looks like a fairly nice radiator. It's obviously a reasonably slim one, and the fans themselves, while very kind of aesthetically, well, let's say bright, do come with a 4-pin PWM fan header and are actually really quite quiet, which I was really impressed with. When installed in a system, which by the way the mounting hardware, as I'll talk about later, is just it's a massive pain, and you will need two people to actually install this, so just do bear that in mind. But yeah, I do quite like the styling personally. The yellow fans are certainly a very large accent, and the white LED is actually quite a nice touch, although you can't change the colour of that. So I've done a fair few CPU cooler reviews recently, and the one kind of trait that goes among all of them that I've done, at least in the past sort of 3 to 6 months, have been that the mounting systems have been absolutely awful. Now, the Corsair H100 IV2 was alright in a sense, because you basically hold the backplate to the motherboard, screw some things in, and while the backplate doesn't actually stay in the right place because of the things that go through the motherboard, either way, it's still okay. Like, that's probably the best one I've done in the last 3 to 6 months, whereas all the other ones, especially this one, in fact possibly even this one being the worst one I've done so far, is that I think they've recently changed what the I think the backplate must have been plastic or something previously, and now it's metal with some plastic tabs that go on the back. But basically the mounting screws have a quarter or whatever cut off them, so that they're meant to sit inside the backplate and not be able to turn themselves. Unfortunately, with the revised model that I have, they seem to have forgotten that feature, which means that the screws turn themselves if you're not kind of holding onto them very, very tightly. Also, to actually mount the cooler, you have to push these screws through the backplate and then push them through the motherboard, and then put these basically plastic sort of slight washers over to kind of hold it on. But the problem is, when you try and mount the cooler, the screws aren't, you know, in any way connected or secured to the backplate besides slight friction, so the screws themselves go back through the backplate and will fall out if you're not careful, which means you have to hold the backplate and all of the screws with one hand, put the cooler on the, on the screws that are coming through the motherboard with another hand, and with another magic hand you can use that one to push the spring-loaded nuts onto the actual screws that are coming through the motherboard to secure the heatsink, which is just an incredibly terrible way to mount a heatsink. Like, it's as I said, it's probably the worst one I've tested in a while, at least in the last sort of 6 months or so. And honestly, it really annoys me when these sort of things happen, because after you get past the mounting system, which, you know, most people only use once or twice, this is a fantastic cooler. The actual temperatures I got were about 30 degrees at idle on a 6600K. And I think I saw about 50 to 55 degrees under full Prime 95 load for literally like 3 hours. So this cooler itself is amazing. It was ridiculously quiet. The fans didn't seem to spin up all that much. The styling for me is quite nice. It's you know, the yellow aesthetic and the fact that it's got a white LED that you can't change is obviously not to everyone's taste and may not fit in everyone's build. But at the same time, obviously you can switch the fans, although you can't turn the LED off. But either way, white is quite neutral, so I'm not too opposed to that. But yeah, overall it's a really awesome cooler with just the worst mounting system. I really do recommend it if you have patience to be able to put it on. Otherwise, you know, maybe take a look at what is actually quite a decent bit more expensive, something like the Corsair H100i. And I think that's the main thing, really. This is decently cheaper than the majority of 240mm coolers. It performs ridiculously well. It's very quiet, but just as I said, the mounting system really isn't that great. In terms of scoring, I'm going to go, I think, for a 4.5 value for money. The 0.5 obviously missing there because of the mounting system. In terms of performance, it was fantastic, so I'm going to go for a 5 there, but functionality, I'm going to go with a 3.5. In terms of styling, for me, it's not my personal favourite. You know, the bright yellow of the fans specifically isn't that great, so I'm going to go for a 4 here, but obviously that's to your own taste. And TechteamGB score, I'm also going to go with a 4. It's a really nice cooler, especially once you get it installed, and as I said, the temperatures were fantastic. So if you are planning on getting a 240mm all-in-one unit, if you're not going for a Coolmaster Neptune, which is still my kind of highest rated in terms of the mounting system and temperatures and all that sort of stuff, then yeah, this is probably fairly high up on my recommendation list, as long as you have the patience to actually mount the thing. And I really hope that Akasa do sort of listen to the feedback as such and improve the mounting system for next time. Yeah, otherwise that's kind of it. I think I'm going to go for a silver award here as well, just to sort of round it off. But yeah, I guess that's kind of it. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments down below. If I got anything wrong, as you seem to like to point out, then feel free to leave those in the comments down below as well. Subscribe if you enjoyed it and hit the like button. And if you want to pick this up, I'll leave a link to Overclockers, who sent me this cooler to review. I think it's a Case King brand or something, which is why they sent it. But yeah, either way, it's yeah, pretty nice, and hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you all in the next one.